And one process that helped me enormously was through personality profiling. Now, I've already introduced you to the simplistic yet powerful model of warriors, settlers, and nomads. And now I'd like to ask you to explore something called MBTI, the Myers and Briggs personality test. And it's based on the exceptional work of Dr. Carl Jung and all of his research on archetypal characters. Now, bear with me if you've already profiled yourself, okay, or if you've been profiled at work, because I want to bring in additional information that, to my experience, is very often overlooked. The test is free, and there's a link in the notes below with this, and I really would suggest that you, as soon as you finish this, you go off and take this test. The test separates people into one of 16 personality types, 8 of which are extrovert and 8 of which are introverts. And then it subdivides further down through exploring if you're a thinker, or if you are driven by your feelings, if you're judgmental, or if you're very good at perceiving things, and how you intuit and how you sense the world around you and the world within you. And finally, each type is classified to be that of a guardian, an artisan, a rational, or an idealist. Now, I'm not going to go into all the science behind the test or explaining all the different types, because once you know what your type is, there are hundreds of brilliant videos online that you can go and watch, and I really suggest that you find out what you are and then go and research the hell out of it, okay? But I do want to guide you to where you might like to focus your research and why. Each personality type has something called an emotional stack. For example, my personality type is an INFJ, and my emotional stack looks like this, okay? You can see that I'm in the idealist group. My title is advocate or counselor or the protector. The I means that I'm introverted, although of all the introverted group, I'm probably at the more extroverted end, okay? The N means I'm intuitive. The F means my feelings, and the J means that I tend to be quite judgmental. And each of these modalities will either be introverted or internal, or extroverted, or you could just call it external. So let me just drill down deeper, because I think it's really important to understand what settings our brain might default to, so we can either accept them or knowingly override them. So my primary emotion is introverted intuition, or what you might say is unconscious or inner intuition. What this means is my unconscious mind offers my conscious mind lots of intuitive thoughts about what it thinks will work or won't work, or what outcomes may or may happen in any moment. However, when this information comes from my unconscious mind to my conscious mind, it doesn't really reveal to my conscious mind all the data it used to support those intuitive thoughts. And having this as my primary modality, but not knowing it, plagued the first half of my life with anxiety and doubt. In business meetings, I would be listening to all my peers, and every sense in my head would be saying, that will never work. But when I raised my concerns, I could never give anybody clear reasons why it wouldn't work. It was just a feeling, it was an intuition. However, 9 times out of 10, my concerns turned out to be true. And then people would look at me and say, why didn't you say something? When in fact I tried, but I just couldn't give them the details. And then when I discovered that I was an INFJ, and my leading modality was in fact the true power of my own unconscious mind, I had to learn to just trust myself and to believe in myself, even if the science or logic and reason seemed to be pointed in another direction. This course would never have happened, and I would never have recovered from OCD if I had just followed conventional medical science. But something inside me told me that there was more to this than meets the eye. Now, I'm told that INFJs make good teachers, And I think this is because they have to reverse engineer their intuition to put that knowledge into a format that can be shared and understood. And I guess that's why I like metaphors so much. Now, my second modality is external or extroverted feeling, which means that my personality or my unconscious operating system, it seems to default to focusing on and caring more about other people's feelings than my own feelings. I've always been able to pick up on how other people feel, often before they know how they feel, and in the past I would often prioritize their needs over mine. Now these days, now I know this, I can consciously choose where my energy goes, to them or on myself. Whereas before, I just felt like I had to make them happy before I could be happy. And of course, that was exhausting. So my default setting is external feeling, but I can now choose to manually override it and say things like, well, in this moment, their emotional well-being is not my problem. I will force myself to focus on my emotional needs and I won't feel guilty about it. This is making sense. Now the third modality down, and of course these modalities become less powerful as you drop down through them. Mine is internal thinking, which means I think a lot in my head, but I don't need to talk to anybody about these thoughts as I keep them in my head. And should I wish to share them, I'll get all my thoughts in order before I say anything. And because this is my third stack down, my thoughts are not necessarily academic or deeply philosophical. They are more childlike, they're more simplistic, as I try to make sense of my unconscious intuition. And then my final modality is external sensing, which means that I'm by default more attuned to sensing what's happening around me rather than within me. You know, just here as I sort of record this, I can hear people outside my home, I can hear the rain on the window, I can hear the whine of my central heating system. My senses are externally focused on what's happening around me rather than within me. And I think we often unknowingly cling to our default programming without realizing that there is much we can do to recognize it, accept it, or even change it. So if I sort of zoom out from my own profile, it becomes quite clear how it works. You know, due to my external sensing, I'm consciously aware of all that is happening around me with specific attention to other people's feelings, behaviors, and their needs. And all these copious reams of data are sent to my unconscious mind for storage and interpretation, which arises as unconscious intuition that is usually right because it's based on so much data. And then my internal thinking tries to make sense of it all so I can share my thoughts in a way that makes sense, even though I don't have conscious access to all the data. Therefore, metaphors and stories seem to fit the bill for me. But we're all different. We're all different. And if I jump to another character, let's say the INFP, which we might call the healer or the idealist or the dreamer, their modalities are similar, but in a completely different orientation. Their primary modality is introverted or internal feeling. How they feel in each moment is the starting point from which they start their day, okay? Or they start any project or a relationship or start doing anything. If they wake up feeling sad or anxious, it can be overwhelming. And they may get caught up in the trap of believing that they need to feel better or feel differently before they can start doing something different, okay? And as you can imagine, this causes lots and lots of procrastination and doubt and regret. So this is their default setting. But just by knowing this, you can consciously override it. Okay, though I feel sad right now, that doesn't have to mean anything, and it doesn't have to stop me from taking action right now. The second modality is extroverted or external intuition. I have internal intuition, they have external intuition, which means they are really interested in understanding the world around them, okay, and then taking that that external information, bring it inside, and then doing something creative with it. So can you see how immediately an emotional conflict might arise if you have all these great ideas based on external intuition, but you feel bad, so you feel like you can't take action, and you're going to go into another procrastination loop. Equally, if your feelings are good and your ideas are good, you're going to be in an incredibly productive mindset. Okay? And then the third one down is internal sensing. And this third modality is often called the child modality, whereby it's looking for gratification and enjoyment on the inside. What does my body need to feel better in this moment? Be that some food or some other internal pleasure. Now, because this personality type has lots of internal conflicts and lots of emotional clashes, they can very, very easily get emotionally stuck and emotionally overwhelmed. However, because they see the depth of the world, and because on a good day they can feel deeply, they have the capacity to be profoundly creative through music, art, or philosophic ideologies. Okay, and they are wonderful at inspiring and supporting people around them. So can you see, you may be unknowingly tying yourself in knots by the identification of these patterns as you. Yeah? You may be waiting for the imaginary emotion of motivation to come before you start something, or waiting for the fear to pass or the thoughts to stop, rather than just accepting that this is just the way you're wired, right? And you can just get on with life, which of course, with the right repetition, will rewire you. And then finally, in this example with the INFP, their inferior modality, the fourth one down, is external thinking, which very crudely stated are thoughts that help to make decisions for actions in the outside world. And as it's the inferior modality, it's not very good. It doesn't mean you can't make good decisions. It's just that they almost need someone to get them to talk out loud, and that act of talking out loud enables them to better understand themselves better and what they want and what they're looking for in life. So what I'd like you to do is take the test, or if you've done it in the past, retest yourself. Okay, if it's been a while, read all about the personality type that you come out as. Okay, keep an open mind. Read about how they tend to be, and then I would strongly encourage you to spend as much time as you can studying these emotional stacks. Okay, understand what your default settings are, so you can learn to optimize them or override them in any moment. And I really promise you, this is a powerful process if you do the research and if you put the effort in.